Hey team, how are you? So there are 11 stages in creating state. And why do I want to talk about state? Well, like I said, life is fleeting, it's temporary, it's transitory, and it's momentary because we're on a knife's edge as far as life is concerned. We can be extinguished at any moment. So the goal of life has to be about the moment, because it's in any moment that life can expire. So what we have to do is be conscious and cognizant in the moment. And the moment is a thought. So I believe the highest and best way of living the moment is having the highest and best thoughts. And thoughts come from state. And, we have to develop a state, a mindset, a state. And from state emanates all thoughts. So if you create a state, it becomes a fountainhead. And from that fountainhead flows out water, flows out thoughts that are of the shape and dimensions of that fountainhead. So state creates, and from state emanates thoughts. And so if you focus on the fountainhead, if you focus on developing state, then all thoughts from that will be in the right direction, will be optimum, will be powerful. And the question really is, what is state? And state for me is perfection, it's truth. It's a funny thing. If you look and observe the universe, if you observe planet Earth, all living things, plants and animals, for me, when I look at them, they all have purpose. And they all have purpose, meaning that they're on point, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And it's only human beings that have to find purpose, have to find meaning in life. And the reason for that is because they have free will. They can think, right? So state is that level of thinking that is perfect, where you're instinctual, where what you think and how you action is the best thinking and the best action into the universe. It's what I would call truth, and that's why I'm calling it perfection. And so that's why we build state, because from there, and that is what the definition of a state is, and from there everything is flowing forward, positive, correct, directional, and on point and on purpose. And I believe there's 7 stages in creating state. What I mean is there's 11 stages in creating state. So what we have to do is, in order to create state, you have to work through the sequence one after the other. You can't miss a step, and you can't go ahead a step. You have to follow the order, because one thought builds on the next thought and builds on the next thought. It's like compound, making a compound, and so the first stage of developing state is awareness, is contextual awareness, being aware that you exist, that you are conscious, and that you have the gift of life, that you have been created, and that you will die. So it's this awareness that you have presence around you, and you're conscious is the first stage. The second stage is when you become conscious, then you recognize that you have been created, that life has been created, and that there's a creator, because you didn't create your life, you're not going to end your life. Something higher is in control of that space, and that's called the higher power. So the second stage is gaining awareness of the higher power itself. And then the third stage is gratitude. It's recognizing, appreciating, thanking the higher power for the gift of life, because in that gratitude, in that appreciation, in acknowledging the gift of life, and that there is some authority that's higher than you, you basically appreciate life more. So you get a higher thought. And then the next stage is, once you've shown gratitude, is understanding or recognizing the attributes of the higher power. Because when you are aware that a higher authority has created you, then you want to understand and know that higher authority. And we don't have the capacity as human beings to be able to know God or the higher power or Allah or infinite intelligence or whatever name you want to call the higher power. We don't have that capacity to know the higher power directly, because we would have to have that intellect and be God to be able to know God. So we have limitations as humans to directly observe and understand God. But what we can do is we do understand indirectly who the creator is through its creation. So if you observe and look and you see creation, you will see that whoever created the universe has to be all-knowing, all-powerful, almighty, has to be one, omnipotent, omnipresent, sovereign, supreme. There's so many different attributes, if you reflect over the universe, that you can determine the higher power to be indirectly through the observation, through the attributes of the higher power. And so once you have this understanding of the higher power through the attributes, then the next stage is really realization. It's you recognizing the your insignificance in context, in relation to the higher power, how the higher power is so significant and you are so insignificant. You didn't create yourself. You're not going to determine your death. You didn't create death. And so you're not in control of the beginning nor of the end. So you also have to understand you're not in control of the middle, in between. And so you relinquish, you relent, you surrender, you acknowledge, you accept that there is a higher authority, and you do that consciously. So when you do that consciously, that is basically the point at which you get into state, because you've gone through those steps where you have consciousness, you become aware, then you recognize a creator, a higher power, you show gratitude to that higher power, and then you acknowledge that higher power through its attributes. And then through those attributes, you get that humility in recognizing your insignificance. And in that recognition of insignificance and that there is a higher authority, higher power, you surrender to that. You acknowledge and surrender. And that's conscious acknowledgement, because you've gone through those stages where you rationalized it all through. That conscious surrender is the starting of the state. That's where you are in a state, because if you do it, you cannot do it unconsciously. You can't just, without thinking it through, get into a state, because your mind hasn't accepted it. It doesn't believe it to be true. It's only when you go through those stages that you accept it to be true, and you get to a height in understanding that you change how you see the world, how you view the world from there on in. And your outside view of the world is based on how you perceive your filter of the world. So you've set a mindset, a state that recognizes you as being insignificant compared to the higher power, and you surrender to that higher power. And as you surrender, you're basically canceling out your own noise, your own sense of being the center of the universe and thinking you're everything. So when you cancel that noise out, when you cancel yourself out of the equation, then there's a direct connection between you, which is your feeling and sense. So the next stage is your awareness of intuition, your sense of intuition, and the higher power. So there's a connection, and you have a feeling, and what you have to do is direct attention to the world and basically go towards what the positive of that feeling is, and not towards any negativity. So you're trying to anchor to your truth, and your truth is what's right, what's righteousness. And righteousness is that positive feeling of the space you're in, the world you're thinking in, and you stay far away from negative. And then when you feel that positive energy, that positive thought, then you take action, you enact it, you take action on that thought. So you have to have courage. The next stage is courage to create, to push forward in your positive feelings. And then the final stage of developing state is basically having hope and not giving up and not giving in. Because when you get to that level, that state, and then you have to take action and you're courageous, sometimes you might fall, but you have to maintain and sustain the course, knowing that you're not in charge of the outcome. You always have to have hope, recognizing that you're not in charge of your outcome. There's a higher power, higher authority that's running the universe, and so you just have to put your best foot forward and keep taking your best foot forward with sincerity. So basically those are the kind of 11 stages roughly of how to build state. And we build state because state is through which we emanate thought. And like I said, life is short, it's momentary, it's about the moment and moment to moment thoughts. So what happens is you want to get to a situation where you maximize the moment. So the moment is equivalent to a thought, and so you want to maximize thought. That's why you want to try and build state. I've put a long note under the description for this particular video episode vlog, and so if it doesn't make sense, either obviously look through the video a couple of times or read through my description in a little bit more detail, and tell me what you think. What are your thoughts on state? What is state? How do you develop and build state? And what is your journey? Where are you in your journey? That'll be wonderful to know, and share amongst the community. All right guys, talk to you soon. Bye now.